What up, y'all? Welcome to the Health Hustle, where we talk about business and marketing for health brands. And on today's episode, we're talking specifically about email marketing. But before we do, a quick story. So I have been running a lot lately in the Texas heat as I currently train for a half marathon that is coming up. It's actually an event that I'm hosting that I didn't plan on hosting, and now somehow I'm hosting it. And it should be a good time either way. But the reason I put it together is because I want to set a personal record for my half marathon. And so I have been pounding the pavement a lot lately and putting in a lot of miles. And as I was running, it got me thinking, if I was to go back to ground zero in trying to figure out this marketing thing and I was a health brand or health professional, what is some of the major pillars that I would be thinking about? And what is one of the very first things that I would start doing? And that would be to start growing my email list. It is without question one of the highest ROIs, return on investment, that you can put into your business and your marketing. If you think about the other means of engaging with potential clients, customers, and leads, it is often through the realm of social media, which is totally cool. I use social media every single day, but the problem with it is that you don't own that audience and you could literally be deleted or lose that audience at any given moment. I'll be honest, most health professionals that I work with think far too much about trying to get more followers and subscribers, but not enough time put into thinking about how do I convert those into people on my email list so that I can nurture those and grow those into long-term customers and relationships and community, which is exactly what we're going to get into on today's episode and the 3 things that I believe you need for a strong email marketing campaign. And that is a way to capture, that is a way to nurture, and that is a way to convert. Let's get into it. All right, step 1 is to capture, and I'm going to apologize in advance for using a lot of running analogies in this episode. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of it lately, so bear with me. But if you don't have a solid list of subscribers, like you don't have anybody sign up for your email list, well then step 1 is you need to start figuring out how to capture those leads, right? Like imagine signing up for a 100-mile ultra and having never even run a 5K before. If you haven't put in the miles and put in the work to be able to run the 100-mile, I mean, I'm not going to say you couldn't do it. Obviously, it's possible, but you're going to walk away with a lot of pain and a lot of injuries. But this is very similar to email marketing in the sense of you have to first grow that list. You have to first capture those leads. And how do you do that? You do that through what's called a lead magnet. There are many ways to do this, and how I personally define a lead magnet is literally anything you do to capture an email. Here are a few examples. You could do a quiz, you could do a local event, you could do an online course, a downloadable guide, which have been very common for a very long time, online webinars, which is something I just recently do, or you could just straight up ask somebody for their email address. But step 1 is you need to figure out how are you capturing these? How are you putting in the reps and the miles and getting these emails and starting to grow that list? Because without it, it's just a straight numbers issue. Is that even if you're converting every email at 70%, which is incredible, but there's only 2 people on your email, well, that's only 1 conversion, right? And if you think about it the other way, which generally speaking, emails have very high conversion rates, if you have a very large list and it converts very high, think of how many potential clients and customers and patients that is. So step 1 is you need to put in the steps and the reps and to start growing those emails. This might be a biased opinion, but honestly, I've seen it work with a lot of my clients and it's been very successful, is to have a landing page or a website that leads to a quiz. And the reason it works is because a quiz is an incredible way for somebody to self-discover, and you can create a quiz on literally anything, no matter your industry or your niche or your ideal demographic, is that you could probably with the use of AI or technology, you could help create a quiz that allows them to learn something about themselves. And through learning something about themselves, it could actually help lead them to wanting or needing your product or services. But like I said, though, there are many ways to set up a lead magnet, but really at the end of the day is you're just trying to capture emails in any way you can and starting to grow that list. That's step number 1. All right, step number 2 is to nurture. So every athlete knows that the real work doesn't happen on competition day. It's not when you go to the event or the race or the swim or the Ironman or the bodybuilding competition or whatever you're into. The real work actually doesn't happen in that moment. In that moment, hopefully you've already put in the work and you're now ready to do whatever it is that you've trained to do. Well, email marketing works a lot in the same way, is that you're not asking for somebody to sign up or start working with you right away. You have to nurture and you have to train and you have to work up to that point. And that's where nurturing comes into this. And the reason this takes the most work is, to be honest, I don't think there's any automation sequence that's going to take a cold lead to a warm lead and ultimately buy your products and services. There's always going to be exceptions if they've been following you for a very long time or they've been consuming a lot of your content. All those things obviously help. But generally speaking, a lot of the nurturing happens on just a regular cadence of an email that makes you human and makes you personal and makes you relatable. I've started my own personal newsletter in 2022 and have been doing this for a couple years now. And I'll be honest, only recently have I seen some of that work, or some of that training, if you want to call it that, convert into actual customers and people starting to work with me, because it just takes a long time to really build a relationship with somebody, especially from the digital realm. It's different if you're doing it in person or have events that you're going to, or you're doing a lot of networking. As we all know, obviously in-person stuff is going to be a lot higher ROI. But if you're trying to do some of this stuff online, which a lot of us are, because it allows you a little bit more reach, it just takes a lot longer. And that's really where this nurturing step comes into play. And just like you're training, or if it's like me that's training for a half marathon, is it just takes a lot of work and a lot of putting in the reps, putting in the steps, and showing up and adding value and doing whatever you can to continue to connect with these people. And my best advice for this step, honestly, is to not automate, but systematize. And so I often recommend people is put together a template email that you can just continue to repeat, so that when you sit down to write it, or one of your team members sits down to write it, is that they have a very clear formula. So it doesn't take 3-4 hours. It should hopefully only take maybe 30 minutes or at most an hour to do it, because you have a template that you're following. Plus the person that's receiving it knows what they're going to get in on a day in and day out basis. You don't obviously have to send it every day. Honestly, once a month can often work for a lot of people. But the point of this step, the second step of nurturing, is you want to have a regular cadence of showing up and just adding value to this person before we think about the next step. Here are a few things to think about when you're writing these emails. Is number one is to show people what you know. In other words, educate them on something that is helpful. Number two is to tell people about the results that you're getting, show transformations or inspire them in some way, or even share stories about other people that you work with. People love stories and transformations. And the third one is to just make it enjoyable, make it fun, make it humorous, make it personal. Don't be so scripted. Definitely don't have AI write it, or you can use AI for prompts, but at the end of the day, make sure there's some personality into it so people actually know it's you or your team or your company actually writing these emails. All right, the third thing you want to think about is, how do I convert those leads? So if you've been capturing emails and you have been nurturing those emails for an extended period of time, now you want to think about, how do I cross the finish line and actually get them to convert to a customer? So the first official half marathon race I actually ever ran was a BPN half marathon. And I think this was a couple years ago. And I'll be honest, I put in a lot of work to run this race. Prior to that, I'd never done any running. So I got into a running program and started following it to a T, which sadly actually led to a lot of IT pain in both of my knees, which is a whole nother story. But at the end of the day, I ended up signing up for this race, was able to complete it. But imagine if I got to the end of this race and I just stopped at the finish line and just decided not to cross. Like, that would be pretty stupid, right? Like, why would I put in all this work and all this energy not to officially just finally cross that line? That would be silly. Yet this is often what happens with a lot of people's emails list, is that they'll do all the work in capturing leads and the lead generation, and they're really good at nurturing, but then they never really ask for what they want. They never really actually finish the race, one could say. But here's the cool thing. If you've done those first two steps of capture and nurture, this final step, or the final step across the finish line, should feel very natural, just like it would be in a race. You should almost be looking forward to it. If you believe that your products and services is helpful to these people on your list that you've been nurturing and spending time with and talking with and engaging with, then the next step is just the most obvious next step in conclusion, is like, now I actually have this thing that I can help you with. And depending upon who you are, this could look different. It could be an invite for a visit to the clinic. It could be a free discovery call. It could be a consultation call. Whatever it is, the trick here is to just not make it weird. If you believe what you have is the value to the person and you're not offering it to them, the only person you're doing a disservice to is yourself. And if we're talking about email marketing specifically, one of my favorite ways to do this is actually just to include it at the bottom of the email. If you happen to be on my email list, you'll see at the bottom of every single email is I put exactly how I can help you solve your problems. And if you decide that I'm a good fit for it, awesome. And if not, well, then you're just going to get the next email of me adding value, and then again at the bottom of the email asking again. But my point is, with this final step is, in some way, shape, or form, if you've done the first two, the final step should be very easy. It should feel natural, and you should be able to present your offer in a way that doesn't feel salesy. And so just as a final recap of those three steps, it is to, number one, capture those emails with a lead magnet. Number two is to nurture those emails, which just is where the real work comes into play. And number three is to convert those emails by presenting your offer. I hope this was helpful. If there's any other marketing topics that you want me to cover, please let me know and send me a message. I'm always looking for further ideas of how to help other health-related brands and businesses with their business and marketing. Until next time, love you guys. Peace. Hey friend, thanks for listening to the show. If you have any feedback for me about the show or any other guests you'd like to see come on, definitely shoot me a message. I love engaging with my audience so that I can provide the most value possible to the listeners. Before you go, I only have one ask of you, and that would be to check out the Health Hustle newsletter. It's 3 marketing tips that's written every Tuesday specifically for health-related business owners to help them attract new leads. If you click the link in the description, it'll take you to the archive of all my previous newsletters, and you can decide for yourself if it's for you. If you end up finding it entertaining or helpful in any way, you can sign up for the newsletter and you'll get it in your inbox every Tuesday. Thanks again, and keep hustling, my friends.